Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nonye. I thank you guys so much for subscribing to my channel, for your likes, for your shares. Thank you so much. So please, if you're a new subscriber or you're just visiting my channel for the first time, please don't forget to like, to share and to subscribe. And if you like this video, just give it a thumbs up. Okay, so today I bring you another exciting video on how to make a breast tube with gathers. So I'm teaching us how to make a gathered dress with breast tube. Okay, so let's get started. I'll be making use of this lining fabric, and for my lining fabric I'll be stabilizing it with an interfacing, and I'll be using the lightest interfacing, which is pepper stay. That's what I'll be using to stabilize my lining fabric. The lining is quite slim or slippery, it's just little, so I'm using my interfacing to give it a bit of weight. Now, to determine the amount of fabric to fold, you have to add 12 inches to your bust measurement, divide that by 4, then add an extra 2 inches. Okay, so for the measurements I've been needing, from my shoulder to my bust point, from shoulder to the under bust to the half length. Okay, now so my shoulder to bust point is 11, but I had half inch seam allowance to make that 11.5. Shoulder to under bust is 14. I had half inch to make that 14 and a half. Shoulder to half length is 18. I'll add another half inch to make that 18 and a half. Okay, now remember I said for the amount of fabric to put on fold, add 12 inches to your bust measurement. That will take care of your allowances. Okay, you're adding 12 inches to whatever it is that is the highest measurement you're working with. Okay, so from the top of my dress, from the shoulder, I'll mark the chest line. Now the chest line is derived by dividing your armhole by 2 inches. So the armhole I'm working with is 18, divided by 2 gives us 9, so I have 9 inches there. Another way to derive your chest line is to divide your bust measurement by 6 plus 2 inches. Okay, so back to the measurement. I said add 12 inches to your bust measurement, then divide that by 4, then add an extra 2 inches. The extra 2 inches is for the bustier. Okay, so remember the extra 2 inches I talked about, you're going to start marking that from the center front. Okay, so from the center front I'm marking 2 inches. This is going to help me draft my bustier shape. Okay, so after drafting out the 2 inches, I'm going to fold it in. Now this is so it doesn't get in the way of our measurement. It is just an allowance for the bustier. Okay, you can decide to call it the that allowance for the bustier. So I am folding it in so that we can take our measurements accurately. Remember, this is a breast tube. Okay, you can call it a straight bustier blouse, only a bustier blouse, a straight bustier, a breast tube, a breast pad, whatever you decide to call it, it's okay. So I will start taking my measurements now. For the shoulder, I'll mark half of the shoulder measurement. The shoulder is 15, half of the shoulder is 7.5. I'll add 1.5 inches seam allowance. And if you're wondering why am I adding so much allowance, you'll be needing half inch on both sides to join the dart, which is 1 inch. Then you need another half inch to join the sleeve to the fabric, so that will be 1.5 inches. On the bust line, I'll be marking quarter of my bust measurement plus 3 inches. So whatever you have as your bust measurement, divide that by 4. I have 9 inches as quarter of my bust measurement, so I'll be adding an extra 3 inches for allowance. Remember, I already told us that adding 12 inches to your bust measurement creates room for all the allowances you would need. So you can see that I have room for the allowance I need and an extra. Now for the waist measurement, I also measure quarter of my waist measurement plus 3 inches. Okay, So quarter of my waist measurement is around 8 inches, so I'll mark 8 inches on the waistline plus 3 inches seam allowance, and I'll connect that from the bust to the waist. Now you can also decide to take in the under bust measurement. Okay, remember, from the bust to the waist measurement is okay, but if you want to have your under bust area snatched, you take in your under bust measurement. Okay, so the under bust measurement I'm working with is 33.75. I'll mark quarter of that on my under bust line. Now if you don't have a calculator, you can use your tape to divide as you see me do. Okay, you can use your tape to make the division. It also comes in handy. So on the under bust line, I'm going to measure quarter of my under bust circumference, okay, plus 3 inches seam allowance. So you can see that I have a bit of space around 0.2 inches. Okay, so I'm also drafting my armhole. This is not the exact armhole, but it's just to create an illusion for the armhole. We will draft the armhole properly later. Okay, so that is that on the measurement. So I will just cut it out. Okay, so from the waist down to the under bust, to the bust, then to the shoulder point, that's the armhole. Okay, so I'll take that out, then release my 2 inches, that allowance. Remember the 2 inches that we hid. Now it's time to unleash it. Yes guys. Okay, so now we'll consider our bust span measurement. The bust span measurement is the nipple to nipple measurement or the breast distance. Here I'm working with 8 inches. Okay, so whatever it is you have as your bust span, add 1 inch for seam allowance to it. So I have 8 inches as the bust span plus 1 inch, that will give us 9 inches. Now I'm trimming off the half length. Okay, remember I didn't take that out initially, so I'm trimming that out now. So 8 inches as the bust span plus 1 inch would give us 9 inches. So I'm marking 9 inches directly from the center front now. Okay, from that 2 inches mark we made, so I'm marking 9 inches. So I'll fold into 2 to meet the 9 inches. Okay, so you can use your pressing iron to make that stay in place, right? So I also want to extend my measurements, okay, to that folded part. This would enable us work better, okay, and get the measurements accurately. Now you also want to measure that to confirm that you have your bust span. Now by the time I fold into 2, I'll be having 4.5. Remember, half of 9 inches is 4.5. okay, so now I want to take a dart of 1 inch. So on the waistline, which is the half length, I take a dart of 1 inch. On the under bust, I also take a dart of 1 inch. Then to the shoulder point, I also take another dart of 1 inch. Okay, so I'll connect the bust point from the bust point to the under bust in a curvy manner, and also take it down to the half length. Then you also curve from the bust point to the shoulder point. Remember, this is freehand. I have my curve rulers, but I'm teaching us freehand so that you know that even when you don't have your curves, you can always draft a flawless pattern. You can always make nice clothes. This is not pattern drafting. So you just want to make sure you have a smooth curve, okay, so that the edges are not pointy. Okay, so that is the dart now. So I'm going to cut it out. So from the shoulder point, I cut up onto the bust point, then I take it down to the under bust and then to the half length. Okay, making sure you to curve your hands at when due. So by the time I separate the fabric, this is what I'll have. Okay, this is what I'll have. So here is my center front and my side pieces, the two side pieces. Okay, so by the time I open up, you can see my interfacing inside. So this is the center front, then the side piece. Okay, then the other side piece. Remember, I had to cut this on my lining fabric just so that it will be visible enough for us to see. So I'll transfer this pattern to my fabric. Okay, so I'll be transferring the pattern to my fabric. So this is what our pattern looks like. Okay, so on the fabric I place the pattern exactly the way it is to be placed from the center front. Remember, you have to fold the main fabric into two as well, then place your lining fabric on it. Okay, so you want to make sure that everything is properly aligned. You can pin it down to hold it so it doesn't move around. Remember, you need to be accurate here because any alteration you have might alter the measurement or the fitting the dress would have. Okay, so I'll start cutting. So from there you cut through the darts. Okay, so you make sure you don't injure your lining piece, like you don't cut through the lining piece, just cut by the sides and make sure you have exactly what you have on the lining piece. So the center front is out. Okay, so keep that aside. Then we cut the side pieces. Now for the back pattern of this dress, you'll be making use of your normal waist that works too. So you just draft your basic bodice using the normal waist dart. So now back to the front, I'm trimming through that area, okay, down to the shoulder. Okay, you also cut through the shoulder. Remember, we've not done any shoulder slope or any shoulder slanting. We've not drafted the neckline. I told us that I like to join my patterns or my pieces together before I draft the neckline and the shoulder, and I would also take us through that process. Okay, so I'm cutting through to the armhole now. Alright, so we've successfully cut the fabric now. Okay, so I also want to pin the fabric. Okay, then make sure that I have exactly what I have on my lining piece. So I'm pinning it together so that it doesn't move around by the time I decide to trim the edges. Okay, so for all the parts that do not align, I will trim it properly so that it meets my exact measurement. Okay, I don't want to have this dress not fitted or not fitting. I want to have exactly what I drafted. So I can now take out my pins. Okay, so separating the fabric from the lining, now you have the two side pieces for the fabric, okay, and the center front for the fabric. Okay, so this is a lace fabric and the lining piece or the lining pattern will be underneath the lace fabric. Okay, and you can also use the the lining piece to turn the neckline of the dress after cutting to get a neater and a cleaner finishing. So this is what our pattern looks like. This is the outcome of what we've made so far. Now I also want to teach us how to cut the breast pad. Like I said, this is called the breast tube or the breast pad, and there is no bustier dress without a breast pad. Okay, so I'll be using this foamy breast pad as demanded by my clients. Okay, so this is what I'll be using. It's a breast pad. When you get to the market, just ask for breast pad, the foamy breast pad, and they'll give you this. Now ideally or normally I use this is a heavyweight wadding. I can also use a medium and a lightweight wadding depending on my customer's preference. Some don't want the bust area to be too padded. Now my client specifically ordered for this foam breast pad, and that is what I'm using. Okay, so we aim to please our clients, right? So you also want to make sure that the folding you have for the breast pad would accommodate the center front and the side pieces. Okay, so if it doesn't, just make a little adjustment to it. Okay, so I just want to draft a straight line just so that we can start cutting out our pad. Now the chalk is not visible enough, so I'm going to be using a marker pen to illustrate or to show us how to cut the breast pad. But please do not use marker on your fabric. I'm only using marker because this is a video tutorial and I need us to see exactly what I'm doing. Now okay, even if I decide to use a marker pen for this, it is not going to show because this is the breast pad, is going to be in between the fabric and the lining. Okay, so I'm just going to make a straight line, is a horizontal line there, just so that I can be able to place my fabric accordingly. So I'm placing directly from the under bust. Remember, we are padding the bust area, not the full blouse. So I start tracing the bustier shape just like I did in the previous video on how to make a princess that bustier. So I'm just tracing the bustier shape. Okay, so from the top, from the shoulder, I'm coming down by at least 6 to 7 inches because you don't want the breast pad getting in the way of the neckline. Okay, so by the time you cut the neckline, you don't want the breast pad getting there. So I have successfully drafted the breast part for the center front. Now from the side piece, you also place it starting from the under bust, then trace the bustier shape down to the under bust. Okay, so you trace exactly the bustier shape, then you make a mark of 5 inches or 4.5 or even 6 to 5 or 5 inches. Okay, then collect it down. You do this depending on the person's measurement. Now I also want to make a mark around the side, the bustier side, and on the bottom part, just so that by the time I want to place our fabric with our pad on our fabric, we can place it accordingly and not turn it upside down. So I'm cutting through to the pad, okay, then to the side piece. Alright, so the breast pad for the side piece is out. You can see that it looks so lovely already. Then for the center front, we also cut through to that side, okay, then cut up to the top. Alright, so the breast pad for the center front is ready too. Alright, so I'm just trimming out the excesses of my breast pad, okay, so that we'll be able to use it in another tutorial. Nothing goes to waste here, guys. Okay, so we are done cutting our breast pad. Note that there is no breast tube without a breast pad, so you should be ready to cut your breast pad. Now if you don't want to go through the stress of cutting the breast pad, you can also get the ready-made breast cup. Okay, alright, so back to my lining fabric. Okay, so I'll place the breast pad directly on it. Okay, so you can use your sewing machine to make a basting stitch on it to just hold it down. Now note, I would like to place my breast pad directly on my fabric and not on the lining. I'm just placing it on the lining to show us, because the breast pad and the main fabric looks alike, so that it doesn't confuse us. So on the other side of the breast part, I'm also marking as the mark, okay, the X mark I marked on the bustier shape, just to help us identify the parts that will be placed accordingly or around the bustier. Okay, so having done that, I can now strategically place my breast part to fit. Okay, so you can see it fits perfectly, right? So that's the breast part for the side piece, the center front, and the other side piece. Okay, so you can see how easy that was. For the back pattern, just draft your normal basic bodice with the normal waist dart, so that should serve for the back pattern of this dress. Okay, now for the lower part, like I said, is going to be gathered. Now for you to get the measurements you will need for your gathers, you multiply your waist measurement by a minimum of 2.5 inches, maximum of 3 to 3.5, depending on how full you want it. So I'm using up the entire 6 yards. Also remember to add your zip allowance of either 2 inches or 1 inch or 1.5, depending on your preference or the amount of fabric you have to work with. Okay, so I'm using 3 yards of fabric to gather around the waistline of my client. Okay, and the length of this fabric is from her half length to the top of her knee, where she wants her dress to stop. Okay, so I can see from my fabric that it has a lacy part or a net part that I don't want to get into the fabric. Okay, so I can as well trim that out. Okay, so in the black net, we don't need it encroaching into our fabric, so I'll just trim that out to have an even look, okay, all round the fabric. Okay, I'll also be adding a band to this. Okay, I'll be attaching the band to the half length and the rem and also to the gathered parts. Okay, all right, so whatever you have now, okay, you can take it to your sewing machine, use the longest stitch on your sewing machine to stitch on a straight line, then pull the threads, okay, to make your gathers. So pull the thread, you can use your needle and thread, you can use your machine, or you can gather it manually by yourself, or you can even use a ruffler foot. Okay, so if this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up, like and share and subscribe.